Morning, this is your daily weather briefing for Wednesday, March 9th, 2016, and we're going to get started right away as we've got quite a busy day ahead of us here. So let's get into the current weather conditions across the United States. As you can see, we got a lot of precipitation across the southern portion of the United States with showers and thunderstorms extending from Arkansas all the way into Texas along this boundary layer with some small areas of low pressure system that are enhancing the precipitation. Southeastern portion of the United States looking great with temperatures mostly in the 50s, 60s, and 70s with a little bit of fog and some light drizzle along the eastern portion of the United States with onshore flow off the high pressure system. The Mountain West is looking great too. Temperatures are nice and crisp out there with a beautiful morning in the mornings. And the Northwest begin to show some heavy rain begin to come in with the next storm system that's coming in off the Pacific here. Looking at the watch warning map, you can see again the dominating weather news is the flash flooding that's occurring. Several flash flood advisories, watches, and warnings extending all the way from western Indiana to southern Illinois, southeastern Missouri, most of Arkansas, portions of eastern Texas, and most of Louisiana, and now portions of western or southern two-thirds of Mississippi. And this is just a hydrological outlook out here in the southwestern portion of Texas, but they are getting some pretty heavy rains out there at this point in time. And then along the northwest coast with the new storm system coming in, we've got some coastal flood advisories, winter weather advisories, and some flash flood watches and warnings out there for some heavy rains. And then also around the Los Angeles area, we've got some coastal advisories due to heavy surf coming off the Pacific there. Looking at the eastern satellite view, again, a lot of clouds in the central portion of the United States associated with showers and thunderstorms. A new slug of weather coming into southwestern Texas here, associated with the upper level low and a jet max coming in. And again, some fog and light drizzle along the Florida and southern Georgia coast with the high pressure dominating most of the weather in the southeastern portion and northeastern and eastern portion of the United States. Pretty beautiful weather there today. Florida will see some showers and thunderstorms periodically today as we've got the eastern flow kicking in. There's east-southeast flow. Western portion of the United States, you can see a lot of moisture coming in, and this moisture actually extends all the way back into Hawaii, so it's really kind of a pineapple express at this point in time, coming into the northwestern portion of the United States, so expects a lot of cloudy, showery, heavy rains at times, maybe some flooding also around Portland and Seattle and those areas also. Most of the weather is going to be mostly north of San Francisco the next couple of days as the southwest begins to dry out a little bit, especially portions of California and Los Angeles area. Arizona really didn't get much rain the last couple of days, so they're going to remain dry and warm, and temperatures will be increasing there until the ridge breaks down. Looking at the current radar, again, a lot of precipitation in the northwest with some snow falling in the mountains there, but the big weather is a lot of rain that's falling here. Precipitation amounts of 2 to 3 inches an hour, with rain amounts expecting over the next several days up to about 7 to 10 to maybe 11 inches of rain. And there is going to be some severe weather with it, but the severe weather parameters are beginning to fall on this event here as the conditions are not quite there. We'll look at that a little bit later. Looking currently right now, there is a severe thunderstorm watch number 40, valid until 12 p.m. There are some good showers and thunderstorms in this area, mostly heavy rain. A lot of there might be some hail associated with this, but not a lot. And then possibly mostly wet microbursts could be a possibility, and some damaging winds. So looking at the severe weather situation, looking at yesterday, where the enhanced risk was, nothing really happened. Most of the severe weather took place out in the central portion of Texas where there was clear skies and a lot more instability. Cape values were reaching anywhere from, I would say, roughly 1,500 to about 3,000 joules per kilogram. We had some pretty impressive storms that moved around the Del Rio yesterday that looked like they could have possibly produced a tornado, but no reports at this point in time. A lot of large hail and some significant large hail. We had some reports up to about 2 to 3 inches size diameter hail. There was one tornado earlier in the morning southwest of Dallas-Fort Worth. Did some damage there, but most of the other activities were mostly wind reports. Looking at today's outlook, We do have a slight risk of severe thunderstorms for southeastern Texas and most of Louisiana, with a marginal risk surrounding that area, and then thunderstorms in general that could be heavy rain producers and some small hail, maybe some strong gusty winds from southwestern Texas all the way up to Illinois and Indiana. Looking at the primary weather factor, severe weather factor, is going to be mainly damaging winds associated with thunderstorms from about Houston to Alexandria to Shreveport down to Fayetteville or Lafayette, Louisiana, and those areas there. Looking at the parameters today for severe weather, a lot of moisture hovering around the coast of Louisiana with dew points in the upper 80s to low 70s. 60s and 70s extending farther north into southern Illinois. But most of the deeper moisture is hugging along the coast along this boundary area with these surface lows that are along the coast there. Kind of interesting, this morning we're looking at the Lake Charles SKU-T plot. The Cape values are off the chart here, and the supercell values are around 27. And right now, if you look at this, you would say, wow, there's a potential for large damaging tornadoes around Lake Charles, Louisiana at this point in time. But these parameters are going to be decreasing as time goes on. And we expect if this becomes a little bit more saturated, we'll see some of this Cape value come down. We were looking at some of the forecasted plots at this point in time, and it looks like this is going to be ramping down as time goes on throughout the day. But definitely something to watch out around the southern coast of Louisiana, that there is a pretty good likelihood there might be some pretty powerful storms develop in that area if these conditions continue to maintain. Shear values are very impressive at this point in time. With not only directional but strength, wind shear strength also. Looking at the Cape values at this point, this is kind of the limiting factor at this point. The Cape values are most impressive along the Gulf Coast and out in the Gulf Coast. They're pretty limited. When you look at Arkansas, there's really not much there. And this will be decreasing as time goes on throughout the day, and you continually have these upper level profiles become more and more saturated throughout the day. It's hard to get really severe weather when it comes to a very saturated atmosphere. So I think most of the really dangerous severe weather is probably going to stay off the coast and into the Gulf of Mexico today. Convective inhibition, again, this is kind of the limiting factor for the southern portion of Louisiana. There's still quite a bit of inhibition in this area here, and it seems to be increasing a little bit in southeastern Texas. Looking at the storm relative helicity, 3K, a lot of helicity, and any storms that could get into this area could start rotating. It's just that there's not a lot of instability, so that's kind of the very limiting factor at this point in time. Kind of a deep little surface low here, so if there's a storm that could get rooted into the surface there, it could become a potential threat down the road. Look at the EHI values, which takes stability, or takes instability and the shears, puts them together here. Again, most of the values, the stronger, higher values of 2 and 3 values are off into the Gulf of Mexico. May have to watch the southern coast of Louisiana as some of these storms that move on shore may be posing some pretty strong severe potential, but as they move further inland, they're going to go into more stable, more elevated air, so they won't be as strong as they move inland. Looking at the significant tornado parameter, again, most of the parameters are off the coast here, so I don't believe there's going to be a large tornado threat with this particular severe weather event. May have to watch some of these storms back in the southwestern portion of, or in the portions of Mexico that move into Texas again, but I think the threat's pretty low there for any kind of tornado activity. And supercell composite parameters, again, numbers are not super high. The stronger numbers are off in the Gulf of Mexico, so any kind of interest out there in the Gulf of Mexico need to keep alert to that. The storms out there will be quite strong, and would expect some water spouts out in those areas. Finally, looking at the forecasted 6-hour radar parameter, valid at 21Z, you can see again a large swath of precipitation all the way from Indianapolis down to Little Rock, down to Houston. Again, looks like there might be some broken lines of storms out here off the coast here, and again, people really along the coast here from around Houston to Port Arthur to Lafayette south in that area really should be, that's where I think the area is going to be most threatening for severe weather today. As these storms come in off the Gulf of Mexico, they'll be quite potent, but as they move further north into the instability, into more stable or more saturated air, they'll become more heavy rain producers. There might be some wet microbursts, but don't expect a lot of major severe weather at this point in time. Again, some more heavy rains, and there might be some isolated severe thunderstorms over the western portion of Texas, as these storms out here are getting more associated with the cold pool, with the low pressure system that's hanging over the Mexico coast here. Looking at the winds aloft at the 925 millibar level, good solid jet max, low-level jet coming off the Gulf of Mexico with winds pushing up to about 55 to maybe 60 knots. And that jet max decreases as it moves inland quite a bit, but the winds are still about 40 knots. That's pretty strong and powerful there. Looking at 850 millibar, again, we still have a strong jet max, low-level jet pushing into about Houston. And into southern portions of, or southeastern portions of Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana around that high pressure system. So again, a lot of heavy precipitation, a lot of high precipitable water values increasing dramatically in this area here. The mid-level jet at about 700 millibars. Again, the storms are going to be training quite a bit over the same area with not a lot of movement east or west here, so that's where you're going to get that heavy rain set up here. The upper level low has dug a little bit further south than what was expected. When we saw that kind of yesterday with the deeper jet max coming in behind it, so it's way out here around the southern tip of Baja California here, and it's going to sit here for a little while before it ejects out here. And then looking at the 500 millibar jet, again, just because everything's kind of unidirectional here, you're just going to get constant training of storms over the general area. So that's the reason why from about central Texas all the way over to Mississippi here, you have a large potential for flash flooding, as this low is not really going to be moving much, and storms are going to be falling over the same area constantly. These storms will be fast moving, probably 25 to 30, maybe 40 miles per hour. But there's going to be so many of them and constantly going over the same areas. That's why you're going to have the flash flooding potential. And then finally, looking at the 300 millibar level, again, this jet is beginning to pinch off and close off down here by Baja California. Again, the main jet max is beginning to pull back and pinch off here. So where the potential for severe weather, or the parameters for severe weather, there's not a lot of outflow or defluence over this area. The stronger defluence is away from that. So that's the reason why we don't think we're going to see a huge severe weather potential today. Again, we'll probably see some mainly damaging winds and some wet microbursts associated with the storms today. Now, looking quickly at the aviation weather here, again, at 15Z, we have a convective segment in effect for portions of Arkansas all the way down to covering most of southeastern Texas here, as we expect a shower. We do have showers and thunderstorms with tops all the way up between 33,000 and 45,000 feet, and then surrounding that area is we expect additional thunderstorm activity to spread out from there. There's no convective segments for the west or for the east at this point in time, but we do expect this to move up a little bit into the southern portions of Illinois and Indiana later today, and maybe into more central Mississippi as storms begin to expand. Looking at turbulence, because of the strong jet that's coming out of the northeast, we have moderate turbulence at between 24 and 38,000 feet. Even though it's not reported here at this point in time, but we do expect increasing turbulence associated with the stronger and higher thunderstorms, anywhere from about 25 to 50,000 feet with some of these thunderstorms, especially over the Gulf of Mexico. And icing is not a concern at this point in time, but there will be icing issues, especially probably around the northeast, and some mountain excursions associated with the storm system that's going to be coming in off the west coast here. So we expect some icing issues there, and then probably some icing issues a little bit with some of the thunderstorms in those areas and the higher tops that are associated there. Now we're going to look at the 5-day outlook, and this is a new area here that we're going to look at. So we're going to look at the 5 days coming. And on the left-hand side, we have the surface chart. On the right-hand side, we have the 500 millibar chart with the relative vorticities. And as you can see, we have a strong, looking at the 500 millibar chart here on the right, we have a strong upper level low that's just parked over here around central Mexico. And it's not going to move much. And we've got small, looking at the surface chart here, a lot of moisture coming into the southern portion and southeastern portion of the United States with weak disturbances that'll be moving up along the front there. We have a storm system that's coming into the northwest, so you can see a lot of precipitation and quite a bit of tight gradient there, so there'll be some very strong winds along the northwestern portion of the coast. But high pressure dominates the southeastern portion of the United States, and we'll probably see some thunderstorms over Florida, even though the charts aren't really showing on the GFS chart at this point in time. Looking at Thursday, again, not a lot of changes in this weather. Upper level low continues, moves a little bit further to the east along the Gulf of Mexico coast here. Most of the vorticity is still stuck here in Mexico, so not a lot of vorticity spinning out from this, but again, a lot of moisture being pumped up. If we look at the surface chart, weak surface low is going to be coming out on the top portion there of the outflow of the upper level winds. And so again, we'll continue to see moisture chugging into portions of Louisiana and Arkansas, so we'll see a lot of flooding wrapping around this high pressure system as the southeastern portion of the United States remains clear. And high pressure pretty much dominates from the Hudson Bay all the way down to the southwestern portion of the United States. The west continues to get pounded with storms as the upper level low moves into parts of Canada, but trailing front brings in precipitation and snow into the northwest there. Looking at Friday, now the upper level low begins to move a little bit north according to the GFS, and there seems to be some decent agreement with the other models too. And the low level low becomes a little bit more concentrated, but not very strong. But again, we continue to see precipitation backing a little bit more now into Texas a little bit, and becoming a little bit more of a frontal boundary as the low begins to make some progress. And high pressure now dominates the Midwest, so they're going to be clearing out. And kind of interesting here, a pretty strong disturbance now will be moving into portions of central California. So we'll have to monitor that, and that's going to be the kicker that's going to move this upper level low out as the high pressure across the southwest begins to wane a little bit on Friday. Now looking at Saturday, a pretty strong trough moves into the southwestern United States, but because there's not much moisture to work with there, there's not a lot of precipitation that's expected over the southwest, though they need it badly. Probably upper areas of Arizona and New Mexico and portions of southwestern Colorado. Even though the charts in the surface are not really showing it, I do expect there will be some precipitation there. I think the charts are kind of underdoing this storm system. It's powerful enough; it'll squeeze something out, whatever moisture it can get in and get into it in the atmosphere. It will be kicking out the upper level trough from Mexico. It becomes a little bit negative tilted here. So even though the surface low is kind of weak, I would expect some stronger thunderstorms. That might be a little bit of a potential here for some stronger thunderstorms across Mississippi and Alabama as we move into later portions of Saturday here. As this system, though, is weakening, it's still quite dynamic, and you have a pretty strong dynamic system coming in behind it. Again, across the northwest, a strong storm system coming in there. The onshore flow continues there with a parade of storms. But high pressure pretty much dominates the east and southeast and northeast portion of the United States. A little bit of cool air starts to infiltrate into the northeast as we've got a pretty powerful little upper level low north of Maine here, and some pretty cool air coming into the northeast. So your days of summer are going to kind of end here for a little bit, and you'll get some cooler temperatures coming in. Looking at Sunday, a pretty compact, strong upper level low moves into central Texas here. And as we look at the surface chart, I think the surface chart is kind of underdoing things. I think even though moisture, the main moisture axis will be associated with the first upper level low, I don't think we could underestimate the fact that there's going to be a lot of moisture still sitting here from the rain that just recently fell. So I think these areas of eastern Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi need to be alert to the fact that there still could be a potential for some severe weather here on Sunday. Even though the charts are not showing much in the way of precipitation, I think it's kind of underdoing it. But we'll have to watch that closely here. A lot of precipitation again coming into the Pacific Northwest, with a lot of snow now beginning to fall in the mountains as some cooler air begins to infiltrate that area as an upper level low moves into the northwest. And then finally, looking at Monday, we can see that that upper level trough begins to weaken a little bit over Alabama, and becomes more of a progressive wave here. So again, showers and thunderstorms mostly from the Great Lakes down to the Gulf of Mexico. Not a lot of strong surface features there, so even though we're not expecting a lot of severe weather, you could probably get some strong thunderstorms and some isolated showers and thunderstorms pretty much from the Mississippi River eastward, as the east will be kind of under the gun. An upper level trough moves into the western portion of the United States with some cooling air. Again, I don't think the Southwest is going to see much precipitation with this at this point in time, but we'll have to watch this because, again, the maps are all over the place, and once you get out to about this day on the maps, it becomes a little bit more convoluted. Charts are not as accurate here. But again, the Northwest will remain quite active with showers and heavy rain and some heavy mountain snows there as cool air infiltrates the northwestern portion of the United States, begins to make a move. All right, well, that does it for today. I know a lot of weather packed into this. We'll keep you updated and throughout the day, and we thank you for watching us.